Hello, everybody. On today's episode, I wanted to do a video about this post that came across on the Action Figures subreddit. It was a brave post by somebody, and I'm just going for the sake of those who might just be listening to this instead of watching the video. I'm going to read it real quick, and it's kind of self-explanatory. How to beat a collecting addiction. That's the title of their post, and I'll also have it linked in the show notes and all that stuff. Now, first, I'm not here to crap on the hobby. I love it, probably too much. It's not a money thing either. Well, not really. It's just a focus thing. I love everything. LOL, I collect Transformers from time to time, all G.I. Joe classifieds, more Super 7 Ultimates, every Mandalorian-related Hot Toys figure, and some Marvel ones too, Black Series statues, blah, 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 Warhammer 40K. He's just going on over the list here. And he says, I envy the collections to see, I see where it's one thing, one focus, just Joes, just bots, etc., but I can't do it. I just can't pick one. I think I have to pick zero, but I don't know how. What won't fit into my office cave is in display cases in an unfinished basement, or an unfinished basement, or just boxed up in storage. And there's always more coming. I'm tired of trying to find space and clogging up some of the basement. I have kids and a wife, and though they don't say anything about it, I know they prefer it not. I prefer it to tone it down at least a little. I thought of posting this in our minimalism, but I don't think they'd understand how this hobby works. And each day, more cool shit is announced. Sometimes hard to get, and you wait and want it later. It's gonna hurt. So sometimes I buy because of FOMO, or exclusively, or just because, or exclusivity. I'm sorry, or just because it's damned cool to look at or mess with. I'm looking at you, Vehicle Voltron. Even the idea of putting everything in storage boxes for a while freaks me out. Any ideas? Am I alone in collecting too many lines? If not, how do you handle it? So this is a great post, and I'm glad they posted, because in the comments, if you go to the subreddit and you read the original thing, you're going to see a lot of good comments. As miserable as the internet can be, I think when it comes down to it, especially being that a lot of the kids who grew up on the internet are now getting to be a little bit older and stuff. You know, I think some of them, there's a lot of calmer people on the internet now than you'd think. And when you ask a legit question, people often legitimately answer, and there's some great comments over there, so go read that. So what I have 5 ways that I keep. You can see my collection behind me here. You can see I've got 1 shelf here, 2 shelves, 3 shelves, and then over here you can't see on to my left and on the other side of the camera here. Is a third small one that I use to hold the items I need to review and some other smaller stuff. So these are the 5 things that I do to help keep my addiction, which I'm not, but I mean, I can see where it could become that. 5 things that I do to kind of help keep it in control. So let's just go into it. Instead of analyzing and breaking down everything he says that are really kind of red flags in this post, I'm not saying like in a dangerous way. I'm just saying that this person is obviously trying to stop. And so there's a lot going on there. So my first thing that I do is I organize my collection. This is going to sound really, really easy, but really kind of obvious. But the truth is that if you don't take the time to, by organize, I mean clean it, file it, all that's involved in keeping. Let's say if you were working, just pretend you're working for a museum, and the museum is built for you. It's all about you. And these objects that you're buying and putting up on your shelf, you're doing this because not only because you like them, but because you like them. I mean, this is your opinion put in plastic form on the shelf. So if you worked for a legitimate museum, you would be doing a lot of paperwork. You would be doing having to track down pieces. You would have to be, do you know what I mean? You'd check them as they come in. You'd have to check them in. So one thing I like to do is when I get a new toy, and this method for me has helped me in a million ways in my recent years. If I get a new toy, say I got this years ago. This was the Overwatch Lego figures. I got the Diva and the Bastion. We were playing Overwatch, a whole bunch of my friends were all playing, so I got this, like, cool. So if I get something like that, I keep the receipt. You keep a little bag of receipts, maybe even take a photo of it. Taking a photo is always brilliant for your organizing, because I auto back up to 3 sources, 3 drives: Google, Amazon, and OneDrive. And then I keep a physical copy on my two computers, so I have 5 copies of each little picture I take, right? And so I have redundancy. So I take a photo, it auto loads with date, time, and everything. Then, if that receipt falls apart and 40 years from now you're on your deathbed, or you're with your grandkids or whatever, you can literally reference the time, place, and location that this toy was paid for, or obtained, or whatever. And it doesn't have to be perfectly exact, but it gives you a general idea. You could look up the weather on that day. Maybe it was on sale. You can look up the location. So you start by doing stuff like that, by taking photos, by cataloging it. I keep a actual paper book catalog with all the toys I buy. Not perfectly. I'm still getting better at that. But I keep a lot of digital copies. And you can also write down price. My wife is even better about it with her K-pop merchandise and collection. She actually has a running tally she can see on a spreadsheet. So when you organize your collection, you're treating it seriously instead of treating it like a super fast transaction. This, in the post, the person is sounding like they're addicted to the purchase of the material, getting it, not even opening it. Because when you first get a plastic item and you haven't opened it yet, I have some over there, but I want to go reach out for them. You're kind of staring at it, and you're relishing the thrill of the potential of opening and playing with that toy. So if you don't actually ever open it, play with it, pose it, put it on your shelf or whatever, catalog it, you're not interacting beyond the purchase. So organizing forces you to actually take the object, look at it, mess with it, appreciate it outside of just the purchase and the thrill of the hunt or whatever. So organizing is not always necessary. If you have a smaller collection like I do, I like to keep it small. But it will make a smaller collection feel much, much larger. And the idea is to get more bang for your buck, so you don't end up like this person who is got so much bang and spent so much buck, but hasn't really had time enjoying it. And organizing is really one of the easiest ways to kind of, you treat it almost like a job, and it's not super fun, you don't think, but then you realize, man, I've really experienced a lot with this toy. Just holding it, writing down serial numbers, whatever. The second thing I do is to share your collection. Obviously, you're hearing or watching this now. I've been on YouTube since 2007, so it's been a long, long time. 15 years, I guess. And I've always used it along with my blog and my photos and my Twitter and stuff. I keep backups of all that stuff. I use it as a collection, as a diary in a way. So while my YouTube, I want more viewers and more numbers and stuff. It's never been for anything more really than keeping a running catalog of my collection. Or my thing I'm into, it used to be about games. This channel used to be about games. So excuse me. So when you share it, again, you're extending the experience beyond your shelves, beyond the purchase, beyond the work you do to organize it. You share it with people. Then we don't have people over like we used to as much, especially with COVID. When you get a little older, you don't have as many friends as you did when you were like 12 and you had like 12 friends hanging out with you all the time. You get a bit more settled in your ways. You get a bit more lazy, whatever. And when you share a collection, either doing videos, making podcasts about it, posting it on your Instagram, whatever it is, even if it's just for 12 people, because sometimes I get videos that get literally a dozen views, and then I get some that get 12,000 views. But I often sit and think, this is really interesting that somebody I don't know, who doesn't know me from Adam, is coming and listening to me or watching me and appreciating the object that I'm presenting to him. So my collection, again, is taking on a life that's much larger than it normally would be. It's not just a collection of just plastic objects on a shelf. It is a statement, and it's a way to express to people how or what I enjoy and how I enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? So it's very particular to you, but if you don't get it kind of out in the world, even in a minor way, share it with friends or family, then you're going to become more and more secluded in your hobby, more and more alone. Like this person sounded like, not alone, like lonely. I'm not saying that. They are married with kids and stuff, and probably is super happy, especially with kids. Toys with kids would be so fun, you know. But you start to get secluded in your experience, and then it's just no fun anymore. There's nobody to talk to about it. There's no friends to swap toys with or to say, hey, isn't that part cool? You know what I mean? And as you get older, you really, really need that, especially when you get into your 30s, 40s, 50s, and socializing is not as immediate as it used to be. So sharing your collection, I think, is one of the easiest ways to get more out of your collection. There is a kid on the subreddit. I'm sure if any of the toy action figure subreddit readers are listening or watching to this now, there's a kid. He's kind of a chubby kid. He's kind of got messy hair, and he will just he'll say, look at my new action figure, and he'll hold it up. And that's all he would post. And the camera's kind of low quality and stuff like that, but he's just a really sweet-seeming kid. He really enjoys it, and he just kind of takes this nervous little photo. Well, he gets tons and tons of upvotes, and people are just oh, that's an awesome figure and stuff like that, and he just seems to really enjoy it. And he's getting that thrill. He's getting that because he's sharing his collection as it builds. He's slowly getting more and more figures, and he'll go, what do you think? And, you know, I want to take him and just be like, man, let's go to the store and get you everything you want. Let's get you a good camera. Let's get you set up on YouTube. He's an autistic kid, and so he says he has problems sometimes with, like, if I read it correctly, with, like, public speaking and stuff. But, man, his sharing of that is turning his little just single photo of, like, he's just so funny when he does that. It's turning into so much more than just a toy purchase. It's an experience. He's spreading his joy for that object into the community, and it's very it's not, people actually like the post. They actually love commenting on it because it's what's more awesome to see than somebody, especially a younger person, enjoying a toy, other than he's not buying it just because he wants to have the hot new thing. He's buying it because he thought it was cool. Just brilliant. And so if you don't share your collection, you need to, I think. You need to get an Instagram, Facebook, whatever you're on. Post it, get 2 or 3 likes, get 100 likes, whatever, get a couple of comments, and it's a really nice feeling. We knock social media a lot because it can be such garbage, but I am under the tent of saying that I think social media is one of the best things that has ever happened. It's one of the worst things, but it's also one of the best things that's ever happened because people can share their ideas or their views or their toys or whatever, and it embiggens everything. It's just a really neat thing. So that's what I would do next, is share your collection. Then I've got this is an important one too. Again, the idea here is that you're going to want to make your collection feel larger than it is. And I just splashed water on my face. Excuse me. One of the ways I do this, because again, I want to keep it to basically these 3 shelves that you see here. It's not very big at all. And then I've got this one over here, but you know, that doesn't count. And then my wife has her dog collection and her K-pop collection in her area of the house, her office and stuff. But one of the easiest ways that I've discovered to make a collection feel larger and more dynamic is to rotate it. And by rotate, I mean pull out some things, put in new things, and continue to do that. You don't have to do it to your entire collection. Like this area here, these 2 areas here, these are Gunpla kits from the Build Fighters universe. So it starts with Build Fighters beginning G, I think, and it goes all the way to the last one, Build Fighters Battle Log. What was it called? Anyway, whatever the last one was called. As you can see, it's only 4 of those sections, so I still am needing quite a few to fill it in, but it's a nice slow build. I'm not in a rush. That area I won't swap out. I'll leave what's on there, and I'll add more to it slowly. But you have the stuff up top, which are just random kits. Random toys, action figures, custom stuff. Those, especially with the custom stuff that you spend a lot of time creating, those I find that you have to swap them out because occasionally the ones you paint will get so much dust on them it starts to affect the paint. Yes, you're going to need to clean them, which is part of the organization of your collection. You have to clean your stuff, dust it off. One of the greatest things I use right here is these cheap fan brushes. Go get you a big 6-pack or 12-pack of these, and you just use them. These are fantastic. An air blower too, if you have that. Sorry, so that area up there, I leave it to be dynamic and kind of swap in and out, and I'm cool with that. I leave that area. These guys here, these are all static collections in a way, but this is just action figures. You can't see me if you're just listening to this, but this shelf here is just action figures that are just fun. I like the look of them, and I leave myself some room like that to pull things out, put stuff in, pull things out, put stuff in, because in the meanwhile, I'm organizing them, I'm writing them down, I'm taking photos, maybe making videos of them, getting comments and likes and stuff from people who appreciate that I posted that weird little robot or whatever from '87. Do you know what I mean? And then, so as I pull that figure out, I've done a lot with it. Excuse the thunder and lightning here. I've got a thunderstorm moving in. So I pull that figure out or that toy out, and I've had a whole experience with it outside of just purchasing it, looking at it, throwing it in a box, purchasing it, looking at it, throwing it in a box. If you look at what a lot of collectors do, they do the buy two. Buy one for the shelf, one for opening, one to put away, I should say, and one for opening and playing with, which is fine. But you're talking, generally you're buying a brand new figure when you buy it that way. Something is announced, the new Spider-Man, blah, blah, blah. You buy 2 of them, you're spending twice as much. So instead of $24, let's say, for a Marvel Legends, you're spending $50. So you're already putting yourself in for more money. Now, when you get to my age and you have, you can afford to buy things here and there, it's not that as much, but it's that you're literally, what do you do with the second one? It takes up this much space. So you've got to put it in a thing and blah, blah, blah. I'm under the impression that you get more out of your collection and your purchasing when you open it, take it out, experience it as it is, and also, like catalog it, images, video, podcasts, whatever. And then by the time you're done with it, you pack it away. Sure, it's taken out of the package. It's not worth as much. But you've set up this entire, I guess you'd call it a provenance or whatever, that if you did keep that one day, you have all this paperwork, receipts, videos, audio, pictures, whatever, with that doll or toy that is out of the package, but there's a history built into it. That's worth more to me, I think, than being completely locked inside the original box. So this is why rotating your collection is so important. You have this experience with something, you can then put it back in its original bag. Like I've got the Thundercats, I can't remember what the special box of the Mumra was. I bought him because I just thought he looked cool. I messed with him for a while. I left him out on the shelf. He got a little dusty. I dusted him off. I put him back in his collector's packaging, and I've packed him into a box. But the process took months and months, probably 6 months, because I had him out on the shelf. I messed with them. I took photos with them. I didn't review them, but you do stuff like that, and you get much more of an experience with it. So by the time you pack it away, you got all that good feeling out. You didn't have to try and convince yourself that one day I'm going to sell this and it's going to be worth $300. I mean, when you start to get in collecting that way, you're investing. You're not collecting as much. If you want to invest, it's great. But we're talking about a small collection. Small collectors, not people who are running this for a business, not typically. So rotate your stuff. Pull out old stuff, put in new stuff, put the old stuff back in 2 years later. One of the funniest things to do is go through boxes or a bag or whatever of old toys or model kits or whatever, and rediscovering how much you liked it in the first place. So rotating is very important. Another thing I do is to limit your collection. This should be pretty obvious what this means, but I mean what this person described. If you reread the post, one of the things they point out is they're like, I don't understand how people just pick one thing. I love everything. I love everything too. Everybody who gets into action figures or toys, or dolls or whatever, it's pretty rare that you see something you're like, if it was free, you'd be like, hell yeah, I'll take that. I just came back from a toy haul, I'll do a video about it where I got a ton of sale stuff. We're talking dirt cheap, though. I wouldn't have bought it otherwise, but of course I like, and you like toys, you like dolls or whatever. But when you're buying a little bit of everything and there's no direction, it's very possible that you run into the same problem that this person is having, which is you feel overwhelmed. That's all it is. They're feeling overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed. And it's getting to a breaking point it's getting to such a breaking point, so close to that they're willing to go on Reddit and ask people, I need to talk about this. Have you been through this? What do I do? There's a great channel called Toy Galaxy. Fantastic channel, long form analysis and, like a history more of toy lines and toys and stuff. I like that he's an older dude. He's realistic. He's just a dude, and they started it off as a channel. Now it does really well, and I think it's their job. No more deserving channel than that channel. He made a video that went a bit viral years ago talking about why he sold his collection. Of course, now he's got most of it back probably, and he also gets a lot of toys for free and donations from people. So he's not at a loss for toys. But a lot of these people get to this point where they just, I have to have that. I want that. I pre-ordered that. I've got $600 in pre-orders waiting, and da-da-da-da-da. And it gets to be so heavy on your conscience that you just want to get rid of it. And you'll end up getting rid of it for quite a loss, which is kind of, if you're a collector/investor, kind of defeats the point. So start early and limit yourself by saying, I like this. I collected about, if you've been watching my videos on my channel for a while, I collect about 10, 11, 12 different lines, and now it's down to about 6 or 7. And then I allow myself, outside of those lines, some freedom to have that's a cool figure. Like I've been buying the Power Rangers monster, like their deluxe monsters. I got the eye guy, I got the pig head guy, and today that'll come up in my haul video, I got the pumpkin headed guy for $6. It's fantastic. I love how they look. I'm not a Power Rangers guy in any way, shape, or form, but I love how they look, and I allow myself the ability to have some fun. But I have worked really hard to find lines here. You can see I have Gunpla, for example. I have Joy Toy 1/25th scale toys. I have Warhammer, 7-inch Warhammer figure by Mark McFarlane. I have Rahio, which is really slow. I've worked really hard to get lines that are what you would call a slow burn or a slow line, where they don't come out like Marvel Legends like so often. Marvel Legends I'm envious of. I would love to collect them, but I don't know that I'd want to have that many things to buy all the time. It's just a matter of shelf space. So for me, I've worked hard to find lines and to limit my collection to lines that are slow, or not slow necessarily, but that I can pretty easily go back and pick up the old ones for not so much money. Joy Toy are probably the most expensive ones, and though they're still cheap enough and they're still popular enough now that you can find them anywhere. Amazon, USA Gundam Store, Big Bad Toy Store, whatever. And you can often find them on sale. So I've worked hard to find lines that were not going to break the bank and were going to come out constantly. That's why you should limit yourself, is you need to limit your scope, or you overwhelm yourself in no time. Not only emotionally, like, I'm feeling overwhelmed, but literally financially. I, like many of you out there, have known people who've gotten to some serious trouble with an addiction like collecting or spending money on games. I used to cover games for a living, and that was a really common one, especially free-to-play games. Buying gachapon, spending $16,000, $20,000. I worked for a gaming company one time, and there's a guy who spent $120,000. So limiting yourself early on, when you start to get into collecting, if you're new, or even if you've been doing it a while and you're starting to see the signs of being a little overwhelmed, tell yourself, what sparks joy? It's these, and then have a little bit of a fun section too, because you got to allow yourself a little bit of more, not fun, it's all fun, but you know what I mean, allow yourself a little bit more freedom with, say, action figures. Like, I love action figures, but I like typically female superheroes, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, stuff like that. But I also like robots, so I like Iron Man action figures, stuff like that kind of goes along with that kind of. I try to keep it in the same general theme of my collection. But I just have fun with those because they're so numerous. You can catch them on sale, so you might find a figure and be like, "Hey, that's a cool figure for $5. I'll grab that." But you don't do that constantly, or you wind up like this person on subreddit who has boxes and boxes and more coming. You can see all the signs in that post of trouble brewing. And he says, "My wife and kids don't give me a hard," or they say, "My wife and kids don't give me a hard time, but they can tell I need to cool it off a bit." And I guarantee it, they're thinking you need to cool it off a bit. They might think that they're not really pressuring him, but they're probably just being nice to him. So limit your collection. Just if you have to, sit down and write down the 10 lines that you want to collect. Stick to that. If there's a new line, try to get rid of an old line, or try to say in the new line I only want to get, like, for example, I recently reviewed Bumblebee, a Transformer, but I never do Transformers. It's just not my bag, really. I don't really like that kind of a robot. I like more of a practical robot, if that makes sense. But I love this little Bumblebee series. I forgot his name. Anyway, it's in my reviews. And I thought, man, this would be cool to collect Transformers. But I said, if I ever got anywhere near there, I'd have to select a very particular line because, there's other lines inside that line, and I'd have to collect the very particular price range. Automatically thinking about how to limit myself because otherwise it would just be overwhelming. Because it's 50 years of toys or whatever it is, 40 years of toys. So limit. This is probably my best advice right there. Here comes a big thunderstrike. Lastly, investigating your collection. It sounds like, and I kind of mentioned this along with organizing your collection. Ooh, good one. I hope the lights don't go out. Meaning that when you get something like this, you go, okay, what is this from? It's from a Lego set. Is there more in the set? Who's this character? I bought it because it just looked cool. I mean, I knew who the character was, of course, but you might do what I do once in a while and just buy something because it looks cool. And you're like, oh, what is that? And if there's an anime, go check out the anime, or go look at more reviews for the line. Get into the background of the toy. That's part of organizing it, but investigating is kind of like organizing, but just a bit more in depth. Again, the key here is to try and make your small collection feel larger so that you don't continue to get more and more to the point of being overwhelmed. In fact, I didn't really mention this point. It kind of goes more with cycling out, rotating your collection, but don't be afraid to sell or donate as well if you have stuff. I don't really have much that would be worth selling. I have maybe 10, 15 extra figures, and then you got to do mailing and stuff like that. I might do it someday, but most generally everything I have fits all in this room. That's another rule I have. So when you get a new toy, though, or you get something new, investigate it. Get into, because nobody starts off knowing everything about a line. You see a lot of collectors who are real gatekeepery and to newbies and stuff, and they're like, I did this a while ago. I found a spaceship thing from the Gundam universe, one of the many timelines. I said, that's cool. I'm going to buy that. And I said, what is it? And a person in the Discord was literally like, you're just going to buy it? You don't know anything about it? I'm like, well, yeah, that's how you buy stuff. I didn't absorb all of its information immediately just by seeing the photo. So, but I knew if I was going to get it, and if I really liked it at that point, I should figure out what it is. Not should, but I wanted to figure out what it is. Look up other reviews, maybe go watch it in the actual animation, see how it fit into the larger Gundam universe, because I do know a lot about that. And it's like, that would get me a lot of more thrill and more bang from that buck, because it was only like $50, but I would get it, stick it on the shelf, and that's it. I do have a lot of critters like that, like the Power Rangers stuff. But as I started to get some more of those, because I just think they look really neat, I follow a couple people who do podcasts and stuff about Power Rangers. I looked up some videos about it. What is this character? And there are these fantastic practical effect creatures in that show. It's really, really a great show for that. And I started really enjoying that. And, there's no pressure. I don't feel the need to do it constantly. But when you investigate what you're buying, or when you really kind of put more into it, instead of just consuming it and then packing it away or being like, oh, I got so much, I'm just so full. When you investigate it, it's more like you're cooking it for yourself. It feels a bit more, you extend the process of buying and collecting things. You're extending the experience, which is the trick. See, you've got to trick yourself. with everything that we do, going to work every day and not, being driven crazy by the mundane, how mundane it is and stuff like that, you kind of have to trick yourself and you have to think, all right, this is so I can make some money, so I can have some fun, I go out on the weekend or whatever, that sort of thing. So collecting has to be taken seriously when it gets to a certain point, because while this is all what we want to say is a hobby, when you're spending as much money as this guy's spending on his hobby, you obviously have to be very careful, because pretty soon you have a collection that you value, quote unquote, at $25,000 that I see collectors do all the time. It's only valued at that if somebody actually pays you that. So if you just buy something to later try and flip it or turn it around, go for it. That's cool. I know a lot of people who make money that way, but understand that it might not always work out that way. So the trick here is to get the most bang for your buck, because you might not get that buck back later. And investigating your stuff is probably the best way to do it. It's part of the organization process. It's part of these all connect. It's part of asking yourself what I like about this. Is it the colors? Is it the shape? For example, that Transformer that I just loved the chunky look of him. He had the round upper torso. And I told myself, I need to ask a Transformer expert, name some others that look like this, that have this similar look and feel, this chunky linebacker look. I love that kind of a toy. And so investigate it, get into the nitty gritty of the toy. You don't have to do it, of course. This is just something that I have found that even when I do it mildly, for example, the Power Rangers stuff, when I just do it mildly, even I'm like, oh, that is so cool. Because in the series, I can see the pumpkin guy has an upside down head. Why? And I can figure all that out. It just gives me a lot more fun than I would have if I just bought, stuck it on the shelf, and stuck it in a box. Not only that, but you can tell the stress in this person's post if you go read it. And it's the stress of not being you're not in control. Collecting something, organizing a collection, treating it like you would if you worked in a museum, is actually a very calming, or it should be, I think, a very calming process. Because the reason people, I think, love organization so much, when you get older and you're cooler about doing your bills, for example, you sit down and do your bills every week or whatever, getting your kids lined up for school, buying their supplies, whatever. My mother, for example, used to love those activities because it gave you a sense of control. You're taking the unknown, the future, and you're saying, I'm going to apply my will on it, and I'm going to organize it, and it's going to come out this way. It's more in control. And so when you're doing this stuff with toys and you're collecting stuff, it should be a pleasing, a relaxing activity. If it's stressful, it's kind of like gaming. When it starts to get really stressful, you have to watch out, because you can really have a problem later on, like this person. I don't think they're quite to the problem level yet, but I think that they are getting darn close, which is why they came out and asked advice for it. So good luck to this person. If you want to go leave a comment on there, it seems like they've read them all. I've gotten a lot of posts that have gotten a billion comments, and you read them all, but you can't respond, so don't be weird if they don't respond. But go leave them some encouraging information. This is the kind of post that somebody puts that it's not a cry for help necessarily. It's not to that point yet, but they're starting to feel itchy about it. They're starting to feel a little bit like, this is making me uncomfortable. So it's good to go help people out like that. And I would just say that if you're really getting to this point with your collection, if you're starting to feel really overwhelmed and stuff like that, stop. You have to let go of the feeling, the idea that if you don't buy that pre-release now, it'll never be around again. Now, I understand stuff like Galactus, the Marvel Legends Galactus, stuff like that. People are all freaking out because they didn't put their $300 or whatever it was down, and now they didn't get it, and everybody's getting it, and everybody's happy like Christmas morning, and they don't have it. FOMO, right? But you can buy it from somebody later. I guarantee it. It might be a little more money, might be a lot more money, but you can acquire that item later. So if you don't let the stress of that feeling get yourself into trouble, or just make you feel yucky, it's just not worth it. But anyway, I just thought I'd cover that. I thought it was a very interesting post, and I'm glad they posted it, because I think a lot of people have the same issue or similar issues. And it's good to talk about it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people have toy collections and collect toys, and yet they're not ashamed of it, but they're a bit like ashamed to really talk about why they do it. And it's supposed to be fun. Don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. Just if you need anything like that with questions on collections and stuff, reach out to someone like me who's been doing it forever and is comfortable with it, or reach out to somebody on the subreddit, because there's some good people out there. So anyway, have a good day, everybody. I thought I would shoot off that long video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.